Welcome to the Nova Wealth Show. I am your host, Amy Novakovich.
And I'm Jim Novakovich. We're a husband and wife team and co-founders of Nova Wealth Management.
We also teach you how to build wealth, advise you how to keep it, and how not to get taken advantage of. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the Nova Wealth Show, where we try to help you save and protect your money and help you grow your money as much as possible. Today I have a very special guest. We're going to talk about fraud. I know that's an awful word, a dirty word, fraud. But we're going to dig deep and talk about how do you know if you're being defrauded, because this can be the difference between whether you're successful or you go broke. So how do you know if you're being defrauded, and what are the next steps that you do if you are being defrauded? So I have today David Lisko, commercial litigation attorney and sports agent, actually, with Holland & Knight out of Tampa. Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate it so much. So if you want to hear even more of David, we just did an hour-long live on our Facebook page, on Nova Wealth Management's Facebook page. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Nova Wealth Management MGMT, and then this podcast, the Nova Wealth Show, is on iTunes, as well as the video version is on the Wooditch network. So depending on which one you're watching, you can get it in your car if you want, or if you're driving, or if you're working out, like you say when you're running. But this issue of fraud is something that usually I get into after the fact. You know, usually a client or a prospect comes to me after the fact, after they've been defrauded, or they tell me the story of what they've been through, or it was years ago, it was in their past, you know. So let's talk to people about being proactive. What can you do, if you think you might be getting defrauded? How do you know? And then we'll get into, after that, after we talk about how do you know, the specific steps of what to do next if you know you're being defrauded. What do you do?
Okay, I would say, what's interesting, I come at this topic from someone who primarily gets my basis of knowledge from having involved in numerous lawsuits of people who feel like they were defrauded, or business divorces, or just business relationships that went bad, and inevitably someone accuses the other one of bad, even if the basis of the lawsuit is breach of contract.
But sometimes it is just a disagreement that goes into a huge downward spiral, right?
Well, so the deal is this, is in the state of Florida, at least, if you accuse fraud and you win on a fraud lawsuit or a fraud-based lawsuit, sometimes you can get your attorney's fees back. So a lot of times, there's lawsuits about, even if it's a simple breach of contract lawsuit,
right,
a lot of times fraud will come into the mix because someone thinks I can sweeten the deal, or I can basically get my attorney's fees, or I was wronged. Or if they say this was some breach of contract, but looking back, I now think I was defrauded from day one. And fraud is
looking back, once you tell somebody, they can look back and say, oh my gosh, yep, that red flag was there, that red flag was there, you know.
Yeah. So I've done numerous lawsuits, involved in numerous lawsuits from victims of fraud, and also defended lawsuits where both sides were accusing fraud. And my clients are large companies, small companies, high net worth individuals, pro athletes, former pro athletes. And I've had the gamut.
A lot of
and I've also been involved with whistleblowers who went to the SEC, DOJ, FBI, and said, I had come across and the victim of this Ponzi scheme, this fraudster, and I've walked them through the process of doing that.
I've called that whistleblower.
Which is tough. Yeah, it's very tough. It's a very unique deal because you're walking a fine line of, is this really fraud? Am I being neurotic? Or am I helping other people by doing that? So I run the gamut when it comes to fraud. And I've been involved in bankruptcies where very large Ponzi schemes came down, or companies came down that were running on fraud. I also do white-collar crime work. So I've been involved where people were literally defrauding the government or defrauding taxpayers or whoever it might be. So I have a wide variety of fraud-based litigation experience. So
when you think about it, it's very unfortunate that you're so busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. Well, me and a lot of attorneys at Holland & Knight and abroad are very busy commercial litigators with this kind of deal. And
well, when you do what you do and you're so good at it, you're helping people get ahead of it too. So obviously you get involved when it's already happened, just like, you know, by the time it gets to me, it's probably already happened. But you are great at giving the advice of here's what not to do. You're going into business with somebody, okay, Mr. Client, like here's what you need to do and here's what we need to put in writing.
Well, I would say the beauty of my practice is that I have a kind of multifaceted practice. It's primarily commercial litigation based, but also I do a lot of work with pro athletes, former pro athletes, and entrepreneurs. And part of that is kind of advising or general legal services when it comes to creating businesses, doing operating agreements, doing sponsorship deals.
From the beginning,
So
like
from
building
from
the
beginning.
foundation.
And,
right.
and a lot of times, to be honest with you, I mean, I enjoy litigation, but I feel like litigation is very negative a lot of times.
Yeah,
It's
David goes in court.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you win, a lot of times you lose, and everyone's mad at each other. It's just not a good scenario. It's like a business divorce. We call it like a real divorce. Is
It's not
everyone's
like a
angry,
huge
everyone's
happy
happy.
ending,
Yeah. So I like the planning side. I like the
the
side
advisory side.
advisory side because I feel like I'm doing something positive,
Right.
building something positive.
Well, and you're offering a ton of value versus
Well,
just trying
yeah.
to clean up something.
Yeah, and as
Yeah.
opposed to litigation, trying to solve problems or to right or wrong, if we get in early and become involved with how the marriage is coming together or how the business deal is coming together, we can avoid litigation and we can put in things into the deal where if there is litigation, we know exactly where it's going to be, how it's going to be, will you get your attorney fees if you win, and put evidence into there or put things into contract that basically allow you to, for not having no terms
What are
having
some
aids.
of those things? You know, like what are some of the specific items that a business owner can do to protect themselves? You know, even what they don't think fraud is going on yet, but if they're just getting into a deal, what are some of those things that you put in writing that protects them, that
Okay,
helps them?
well,
And this is not
yeah.
advice. You guys know by now, I think I say this almost every show, that this is not specific advice for you. If you want personalized advice, you gotta get a hold of us, call us, and we'll be happy to give that. But this is just in general for information purposes only, just to pique somebody's interest to see, oh, that might be me, and then they can get the personalized advice. But what are some things that they can do in writing?
Right.
What are some
well,
examples?
Yeah, for example, I would say I'm not giving any specific personal legal advice. I'm saying
Of course
that
not.
this is general advice, and if you
Right.
feel like you have any issue that we're talking about or something comes up, call me, call a different lawyer, but get a lawyer involved.
Mm-hmm.
I would say three simple things. Number one, have a lawyer involved or have someone who's offering legal services involved because
Who's not biased, because remember,
Yeah.
you're biased, you have an idea of what
Yeah.
the outcome is.
perfect example, have your lawyer at the table and have the other side know that your lawyer is at the table and involved because
If nothing else, that alone is a little threatening.
will it scare them? It'll say this person obviously knows what's going on. They can give you legal advice. They can help you.
Right.
Other things too, very, very simple things.
Okay.
In a contract, you're entering into. So any business deal, you're entering into a contract of sorts. Even if it's a verbal contract, you're entering into a contract. It should be in writing, so there's no saying this was in there, this wasn't in there. It should be
There's
in writing.
no disputing it. It's
There's no
just
disputing
there.
it. But in that writing, I would say this is, if you feel like arbitration is good for you, there should be an arbitration clause in that agreement.
Go over what arbitration is.
Arbitration is it's litigation or it's like a lawsuit, but you're outside of the court system. So a lot of times people will say there are certain benefits and negatives to arbitration. One of the benefits is that you can make things confidential, which means that if you are a pro athlete, celebrity type, or you simply want to keep things out of the news, arbitration is typically good for you. If you want things to get done faster, a lot of times arbitration is good for
It's
you.
quicker.
Yeah, it's quicker because you're
Right.
pushing it along faster. The court system
going through the
can be
courts.
slow, and as litigators, attorneys have ways of making it very painful to go through the litigation process. So, A, do you have a arbitration clause in your contract? Is that good for you or bad for you? An attorney can tell you whether or not you really should or not, but a lot will come down to your personal preferences of what do you want.
What's some
And
negatives about arbitration? Because you said when it works for you, when doesn't it work for you?
An arbitration, for instance, is binding arbitration, so you may want to have the full bells and whistles of litigation in front of a judge because there's the rules of procedure, there's discovery, there's certain things that
It's
are
more structured.
it's more structured. It's also a judge telling an attorney, don't do this again, or do this, or you must produce this. It's stronger than an arbitrator. A lot of times, arbitration can be laxer or not as structured as court. So a lot of times, if someone has a lot more money, for instance, than one side, they will not want to be in arbitration because they think, I'm going to hire a big giant law firm, we're going to spend a lot of money, and we're going to crush you. And we can crush you easier and faster in court. You'll have less of a chance in front of a judge than you will in front of an arbitrator.
Got it.
So that's one thing. The second thing is you can have provisions in your contract that say if either side is accused of fraud and a lawsuit ensues or arbitration and you prevail in that lawsuit, the other side will owe you attorney's fees for your trouble of going through the lawsuit process or arbitration process. So little things like that. There's
So
little
then
things
that takes the stress off.
Well, it doesn't take the stress off. You can still be defrauded. I mean, at the end of the day.
No, but I mean, it takes the guessing out of, should I hire an attorney? Shouldn't I hire an attorney? If you put in the clause that they're going to be paying the attorney's fees, you don't have to worry about, should I call them? Should I, you know what I mean?
Well, I would say little things like this is, we talked about it earlier. There are people trying to hurt business people.
Yeah.
Really athletes. Really, there are a lot of sharks trying to fraudulently get at an athlete and get their money. Same thing with high net worth individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners. There are a whole group of people. There's a whole cottage industry of how to defraud you.
It's their whole existence to take advantage.
So realize there are bad people out there
Right.
who are trying to do things the wrong way, trying to take advantage of you.
Be aware of that.
Yeah,
when
be
you're
aware of that.
talking to people, just have your.
And even if they sound great, even if you go on their Facebook and they're hanging out with all kinds of celebrities, they're hanging out with whoever it is, Tim Ferriss, or name any big celebrity who is kind of in the financial space to an extent, entrepreneurial space, Gary Vaynerchuk or anybody, and also they have pictures with this person on Facebook or social media, and you go, they must be legitimate. They're hanging out with this guy, or they must be legitimate. They have a Rolex. Or they must be legitimate. They're always traveling to foreign countries.
I know
business.
firsthand. All it takes is you sponsor a charity event, and guess what, guys? You get pictures with these people. So it's not that hard.
Or you're a published author. As you say, this person is a published author.
Doesn't mean
she's
that
written
you're
3 books.
legit.
Well, yeah, exactly. There is a whole industry of people trying to defraud people, and there are Ponzi schemes going on all the time. I mean, look at Lou Pearlman, for instance. This guy was managing boy bands. Who would have ever thought that he was someone you had to be nervous about? But like I said, you have to be nervous about those people. So do things to protect yourself. And for any business deal, I always tell clients, my job is not to tell you what to do, ever. My job is to tell you, these are your options.
These are options
This is
within
what
the
I
law.
think. This is the information I'm providing you. You as the business person, you should make a business decision. But make that business decision with all the information we can possibly get for you. Tells you the pros and cons.
Well, and you help build the evidence that they need. Should things go wrong, you help them give that evidence.
Well, perfect example is they think that this person is saying I can do all this stuff and it seems fantastic and he or she owns these companies and is doing this and that. Well, let's look into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And let's put things into the contract.
It sounds too good to be true. It usually is.
Let's dig into it. Let's look at their books a little bit. And if they're afraid to show you their books, if they're telling you we don't want lawyers involved in this deal, then there's a major red flag.
So there's one of the red flags. So we just talked about, okay, what should you do to prevent getting defrauded, right? So we said have the attorney at the table, have in writing your expectations written, determine arbitration clauses, what provisions are right for you with your attorney. So now what are some of the red flags if you think you are getting defrauded? So all of a sudden they say, you know what, we don't need attorneys involved. Okay, you're not probably. You might be getting defrauded. It's a red flag. What are some other things?
Even if you're not, why do you want to do business with someone who won't have attorneys be involved?
Well, good.
I mean, I'm not saying be super conservative. I'm not saying don't take risk. I'm saying do things in place to protect yourself. Because I'll tell you what, I would almost say having $10 million and losing it is worse than never having it all. Because you built up a lifestyle for you and your family, and then you get the rug put out from under you, and you are starting from scratch.
I'm writing that one down.
And you're just high and dry, and your whole life is shaken, and you don't know what to do. So
and then you live with things like regret and resentment and depression, and then that changes the whole psychology of your whole world.
I would rather own a company that makes $10 million a year than have owned a company that made 100 that I lost and I have nothing left over with because I got screwed, I got defrauded, I got taken advantage of.
So it's worth the money to make sure
is do things
that you don't
do little
lose
things.
everything.
Yeah, another thing is that there's certain telltale signs, and I'll tell you, a good litigation attorney should be able to see certain things. It's they say everything's analytical now, right? It's every pro sports team hires analytics, and I would say what a good litigation attorney should be able to see is just we have been through so many business deals, we've been through so many transactions or lawsuits. Is you start to see repetition in certain things, patterns. Right? You see patterns. You say, well, I've been involved with 25 fraud-based lawsuits.
And out of the 25.
And what do they have in common?
Yeah.
We've been involved with 25 bad actors who've taken advantage of people in Ponzi schemes or defrauded them or whatever it might be. Is what are the patterns we're seeing?
Okay.
And a lot of times, you can't even, I would say, you work in finance, so you see
Yeah.
patterns in the market, whatnot.
I do.
And as a lawyer, we see
Well, and I
patterns.
see patterns of when people come in and bring their statements in, things that
and sometimes
happen over and over
And
again.
sometimes you can't even verbalize what the pattern is.
Right.
You have a gut feeling.
You just know.
Something seems wrong.
Right.
This is not how things normally happen. What is happening here?
Right.
And I'll tell you, anytime you feel that way, as soon as you say, man, this person told me a white lie. They said this, but I actually know that's not true because I was with this person on that date. It couldn't possibly be
And
true.
why would they lie? What's the motivation to lie? And you start
Exactly.
digging into it and feeling a certain gut feeling.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, is these people, the defrauders, the fraudsters, the people that are running Ponzi schemes, they are very good. If they find out that you are a big Christian, you are a very religious person, they will all of a sudden become a big Christian. They're chameleons. Is if they find out that you love the NFL, all of a sudden they know everything about the NFL. If you're a pro athlete and you're from a certain
They're
city,
chameleons.
or you played for, say, Ohio State, is all of a sudden they know a lot of stuff about Ohio State, and they seem to speak the right language. They know everything about you. And we live in an age where it is not hard to defraud people. I think we live in an age, in some ways, we live in a fake age. Is you can make yourself be whatever you want to be on the internet. You can make yourself be someone you're really not on the internet. And also, you can gain a lot of knowledge about people on the internet. So, perfect example, say they say there's some group, and let's just say, so I'm an NFL agent, so I go to a lot of mandatory things for the NFL every year. And every year there's all these financial advisors, real estate
All
people,
over the place. Would you
insurance
call them
salesmen.
financial advisors?
No, I would say people that are claiming to be financial geniuses who are making everyone a fortune.
Financial sales
And
people.
and are doing private yacht deals for all these guys somehow. But
Yeah.
they're all approaching me all the time and asking me if I can introduce them to people. So I don't know why they need me so much if they're doing yacht deals for all these giant pro athletes.
Right.
But you have these people.
And when are they managing money if they're out on the yacht?
Exactly, but they speak the language, they look the right way, and if you open your door to these people, sometimes they can get in the door, and they can defraud you, and it's amazing how damaging these people can be if they're able to get in the door.
So red flags. So we've talked about if they don't want an attorney at the table, like, why do we need an attorney? Everything's casual, everything's fine. We're like family. You hear all these things. Then you have your gut feelings, like if you find patterns or you see things over and over again that just doesn't make you feel good in your gut, just pay attention to that. Pay attention to that gut feeling. And then also when they're a chameleon, all of a sudden they know everything about you. All of a sudden you have the same things in common. All of a sudden they speak that same language.
Do they change for the room they're in? Do they change depending on the room they're in? Do they change depending on the audience they have?
So last night, this is funny because just last night, Jim, my husband, he doesn't even know this yet, but last night when I was walking out of my hotel to run back out to my car to get something, a woman approached me, young, about my age, thin woman, says she needs help. She's like, I've been stranded for like an hour and a half. And I'm thinking, well, she had a cell phone in her hand. So she's like, I've been stranded, my date left me, all this stuff, and she's like, I don't have enough money to call a cab. And so then I said, oh, well, I'll call you an Uber and I'll just pay for it and get you an Uber. No big deal. Like, I'm happy to help you, whatever. And she goes, well, I meant to say that I have an Uber on the way and I'm just short. And I'm like, okay, so, and she's like, and I told the Uber to come to the Chevron right down the street. And I'm like, so she's like, can you just give me a ride? Ultimately, she was trying to get me to give her a ride somewhere. First she asked me to give her a ride home. Yeah. And then she's asked me to give her a ride to the Chevron. I was like, just call your Uber. Here's $20. Call your Uber and tell them to come here instead. And it was just crazy how she was like throwing at me like I have 2 young kids and I have 2 young kids. So she's a young, skinny female that randomly approached me. Like the whole thing was just weird.
Oh,
and I had my red flags up, and I was just like, no, like, of course I'm willing to help you, but I'm not willing to give you a ride somewhere and let you into my vehicle. Like, like, it's just weird. Like, you just have to pay attention to your gut. But that's just crazy. I was coming in here today to do that with you, and then that happened to me last night. It's like, it's just really strange that somebody, a woman, approaches me out of nowhere. I've been stranded. It's like, you have a cell phone in your hand. The whole thing was weird.
Well, I'll say another thing. So I do a lot of work with pro athletes and former pro athletes, and one of the things I see is that I will see certain red flags. I mean, bottom line, I will see certain red flags.
Do they listen to you?
Well, so
when you see them?
Well, it depends sometimes.
Okay.
One of the problems is a lot of times it's friends and family. So if you're saying, I think this guy is full of it. I
Right.
think this oil deal in Africa seems like insane to me.
I see
don't know
all
why
these
they would do
oil
it.
deals. I don't know what's
And-
with the oil deals.
But they'll say, no, you're wrong. So sometimes it's hard to break through.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of times you don't want to have a client like that for long anyway. 'Cause if they don't trust you,
If they don't
believe
trust you, you're
your
right.
advice is only as good as they take it. If they don't
Correct.
take it, it's not good.
Right.
I mean, sometimes some people are so good at defrauding people
Yeah.
that they want to believe them so bad. 'Cause
Well,
they
when
want to believe
they're
they're
family,
special.
yeah.
They want to be
They
special,
trust
and
them.
I finally got my break. I've been working so hard for so long.
Mm.
I finally met the right person. One telltale sign, I'll tell you, this is very interesting, is anyone who's involved in the business community will know that some people peddle influences and peddle relationships. Is they say, I know this person, and you meet them,
They
and you're,
name
and you're
drop.
dinner. Well, and they say, oh, you should meet this person, you should meet that person. My CFO is this person. I do business with this person. I hang out with
So they're
Richard Bronson on a
they're
regular basis.
piggybacking other people's names.
Well, I would say this is
On
do
their
s-
reputation, you mean?
We'll do some testing.
Okay.
Do some testing. Is if someone's saying, I know this person, I know that person, you should connect with this person, you should connect with that person. I do this on a regular basis because I meet a lot of these kind of people. I truly believe in connecting people. And when you meet people that you think have a synergy with someone you know or your friend, you should connect them because that's the way we all do business.
That's what we do business.
Yeah, that's great. And that's why a lot of lawyers get work is referrals. So
Right.
say I'm your lawyer and you think I do a great job for you, and then someone comes to you and says, I think I was defrauded, or I had this problem or that problem, then you refer them to me. And that's how a lot of business is done. That's fantastic. But if someone is telling you that they know everyone and that they see all these synergies with you and you should connect with this person or that person, I would tell them to do it. Set up a call. And if that call
Call 'em
never
out.
happens, let's do it. Let's do
Yeah,
lunch.
yeah.
And it never happens for anyone, that should be a red flag for you. And I said, do some of these
red flag.
feelers before you get in bed with someone. And if you do get in bed, put one foot in before you put your whole body in. One of the things I see with entrepreneurs is they believe the best in everyone, and they believe in what they're doing, and they believe that they're very intelligent and they're very street savvy, so they
Yeah.
couldn't be defrauded. So they will jump all in. They will put all their money into one deal, one
Because they
business.
think they know.
They know the person. They
They
wouldn't
know
hurt.
it, right?
Well, why not do some testing first? So I understand some deals and some of the best deals. The Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs deal. I understand that sometimes your gut tells you go all in and it does work out. And that's fantastic. And sometimes you will have
Just
that.
why not protect against it if it doesn't go bad, though?
Exactly.
Just
why
why
not?
not?
Why not? Why put all your money in?
Right.
Why only do this one deal?
Correct.
Why
Why lock up all your time and
why
resources?
trust this person wholeheartedly? For pro athletes, why sign a
give
power of
them
attorney?
everything, right.
Why would you ever sign a power of attorney?
Right.
What do you need this person to be signing checks for you for?
That's
Is it
another
really
red
that-
flag, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that. If they ask you, oh, you should just give me your power of attorney and I'll take care of that for you. Red
Yeah.
flag.
So another red flag I would say is this: is if you, for pro athletes, if you meet someone that says, "I specialize in pro athletes," or "I only do athletes,"
Oh, I see that all the time in the financial advice.
why would any good business person limit themselves to only athletes?
Right.
Now, I think certain people should work in pro sports or with athletes because you speak the language, there's a rapport. But me as an attorney, why would I limit my practice to only pro athletes?
Yeah.
If Warren Buffett called me and said, "David, I need you to do this deal for me," I'm not going to turn him down because Warren
I
Buffett
only
never
work
played.
with pro
Well,
athletes.
sorry, Warren. You know what? If you had played in the NBA, I would consider you. But Warren, I just can't do it. I only do pro athletes. That doesn't happen. So that's a red flag. If you meet someone that only does certain things with pro athletes or entrepreneurs, I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because why would you not work with somebody else?
That's so
Why
good.
would you limit yourself? The
Yeah.
best bankers in the world, the best lawyers in the world, do not limit themselves to only working with entrepreneurs. You may meet some people that say, "I only work with companies of this size," and that's not who you're really at risk for. That's not a big deal. The other thing is this,
Singling out
if
people.
you meet someone who somehow is a jack of all trades, if you meet a lawyer that says, "Oh, I do everything. I do real estate, I do corporate, I do litigation, and I do maritime, and tax, and IP."
That's in the financial advisor world too, by the way. If you
They
need
actually-
an accountant that can do investments, that does consulting, that will write you a mortgage, like it's the same thing. Oh yeah, I'm a mortgage broker. Oh yeah, I'm in real estate. Oh yeah, I write taxes and I can do investments.
'Cause-
There's no way to know it all, by
Because
the way.
the truth is, if you do all five of those things, you don't do any of those
That's
five
right.
things. That's just the bottom
You
line.
don't do any of
Is-
them right.
Yeah, so be wary of that.
Wow, so we just went over a lot of red flags here, and
Yeah.
you see my notes, I'm all over the place. So first we talked about what you can do to prevent fraud. We talked about 3 different things that you can do. Have your attorney present, have things in writing, and have expectations in writing, arbitration clauses and provisions on attorney's fees, and a lot of other provisions you mentioned that they need to consult you on. And then we're talking about the red flags. So, oh my goodness.
I got one more great one.
Okay, good.
Does this person have a fear of putting things in writing?
Fear.
Do I only get phone calls from this person? Does this person never send me emails? Do I get emails that say call me? Do I get emails that are totally unsubstantive? That's a major red flag. Why won't they put the thing in writing? Why don't they like contracts?
Well, you
Why
know,
don't they
I
do
will
that?
say, though, about
Because
in
that's
writing,
evidence.
though.
Because that could trap them. Someday they
Well,
could say,
no, I do it with my clients sometimes about it because they misunderstand my email. So, like, if they ask me a question on an investment and I put it in email, they misunderstand anyways. It's easier if I just call.
That's different, though. Because
Oh,
some
okay.
people never put anything in writing.
Well, okay.
Some people, you send them an email saying, what do you want for dinner tonight? They'll call, because
They want no evidence.
they want no evidence.
Okay.
I mean, even their relationship exists.
Well, that's different.
And I mean, and you could be targeted. You can send an email with a very specific point of getting it back, and you could tell them, "I want a response in writing,"
Yeah.
because you're building you're building evidence. You're building a track record. You're building. If things go wrong, if things go bad,
Right.
you have something that you can hang onto and say,
To go back
"This
on.
person said this to me in an email. Here's the email. Look at it, Your Honor, or arbitrator, or my attorney, or whoever. Why did you do this? Because they told me this in
That
an email."
is evidence.
That's it. Well, it's huge. If someone is wary of email, that's wary to me. Or if you get writings that don't seem real. So, for example,
Yeah.
I call you and we have a
Okay.
long conversation about our investments
Okay.
and finances and what we're doing
Right.
and my business plan. I then get an email from you 10 minutes later, and it's an email and has several things in there that weren't what we talked about, that are basically CYA email. That makes me nervous. Why is my trusted advisor or trusted attorney sending me CYA emails? So it goes both ways. As I would say, if someone is very weary of
Cover your
emails. That's what. Yes, that's why CA. Yeah, CYA.
People out there
If you don't know
listening
what that
like,
means,
CYA.
Yeah. Google CYA, and I think it'll tell you what that means. So I would just be wary. Like I said, I think having someone to bounce ideas off of. If it's an attorney, you have the beauty of the protection of the attorney-client privilege, which is obviously extremely beneficial.
Confidential,
And
extremely
it's confidential. Yeah. So have a trusted advisor, someone you can say, "This happened. I'm not gonna throw this person away, but this is kind of weird. I think weird about this. Let's call them. Let's talk to them. Let's see it through. Let's get an explanation." And that could save you so much, because it is so troubling when, I'll tell you a lot of times, I told you this earlier, is we'll be into a lawsuit, or we'll have the very first meeting of what turns into a very large lawsuit.
Down the
And they'll
road,
say,
yeah.
"Okay, tell us the 30,000-foot story. Tell us the story of what happened."
Right.
Inevitably, it'll be, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was this stupid. I can't believe
should
was
have
this dumb.
known.
I should have known. There were all these red flags. I missed them." And we'll say, "Well, why did you do that?" "Because I thought he was my friend.
Yeah.
I thought we were brothers. I thought we were family. I
Yeah.
thought this and thought that." And
I hear that with advisors too, though. Like I hear
Yeah.
somebody will come in and they'll be like, I just had a client that I gained, and they said over the good years, the market's been good, and they've been losing money. They've been losing like 30%, and they're just like why? I just didn't know why, and I should have done something earlier. But the guy was like I think he said my son. The guy was like my son. Like he was like family to us. Like I just never did anything because he was like family. And finally he did something because I'm like, the market has been awesome.
yeah, that's insane.
And you've been going down. Like, what, why didn't you jump ship? Why didn't you say anything? And he said, he was like my son. So it's all revolves around trust and who you trust, but you still have to ultimately kind of look out for yourself a little bit, like in our firm, and I know you do this too, like you give the clients the tools, what they need to know, the questions they need to ask. We educate them enough so that they are dangerous. Like I want my clients to know everything that we're doing. And even if they say, I don't need to know that, it's like, well, you kind of do, because I just want you to understand the logic behind it. I don't want you to just take my word for it. I would rather you not. So that's another thing, that once they're in it, once they have taken the person's word for it and they're already in it and it's already been happening, now what? So now they've been defrauded. Now what are the next steps?
Well, that's a great segue. I would say one step before that. So imagine a deal where we're best friends.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, we just met, but we have all these synergies, and
Right.
we're gonna do this great deal together, and it's gonna be incredible, and we're family now, and this is great, and we've communicated so much. I've seen your kids, you've seen my kids, we've been at beach houses, whatever. And then we do the deal. Here's $3 million. And then all of a sudden, you don't respond to my text messages.
Oh.
You don't answer my phone calls. When I ask you simple questions, you get pissed off at me. That is a major red flag. Is
Yeah.
why it's very. I see it all the time. It's incredible where someone
So
will
all of a
so
sudden they just kind of
wholeheartedly
vanish.
Well, I
and
always
it
ask myself.
changes.
It's funny because I see these.
Once they
I see
have
these
the money.
lawsuits. I see Ponzi schemes or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, and I say this person's an idiot. I think this person's a moron.
Yeah.
How could this person ever have stolen $35 million
'Cause they act.
from all these wealthy, well-to-do, educated people? And it's just because
They act. They put on
it's an act, yeah.
friendly face.
Yeah, and they have an excuse for everything. And
Yeah.
then when the people get the money in, they'll put $4 or $5 million into things, and it's amazing. And they won't ask questions.
Oh, it just
Here's
shuts
$4
it
million.
off.
Yeah.
So now they've been defrauded. So now they're in the middle of that, and now they think, okay, wow, I just got taken. What do?
I would say the second you feel like you've been defrauded, find a lawyer. Find a trusted advisor before you go to the FBI, before you go to the SEC, before you go to anybody, before to go to your friend on the street. Find a lawyer and talk to a lawyer. And you don't have to spend a fortune on a lawyer, but have at least an introductory conversation.
Tell
where
them
can
what
say-
you expected, what you were told, and
Well, a lot of times I think the first conversation should be, do I need a lawyer?
do I need a lawyer?
Because a good lawyer should be able to tell you, yes, you definitely need a lawyer, or I don't really think so, or maybe you do, but only in this limited capacity. So
Can't they call you and flat out ask you that? Like, do you think I need your services? You need.
Well,
The problem is you need an honest lawyer like you that does that. Not all lawyers. There's some lawyers that will just say, yeah, you need services.
But well, I would say this is the lawyers who are well known, who have good reputations in town.
Okay.
It's not too hard to figure that out. I mean, are they at a reputable law firm? How long has the law firm existed?
Okay.
Who are they partners with? Who else at that law firm? I mean, if you're a business person, you've been doing business in the community. Who do they trust? And I mean, it's about personal relationships. So you can ask around.
Ask around.